Call this special meeting of the Board of Equalization of Oklahoma County to order. Today is Tuesday, April the 29th, 2025. It is now 9:30, and we have a full house. Mr. Brett Town.
Present.
Mr. Teresa Sellers.
Present.
And I'm Eleanor Thompson. Notice of this meeting was properly posted on April the 24th, 2025. We have 8 items on the agenda. And when we get past our minutes and the 5 years manufacturer's exemption, we're going to take the last item on the agenda because they are in New Jersey and they'll be sitting there. We're doing it by telephone and they won't know what's going on. And it shouldn't take that long. Okay, so first item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding the minutes of April 17th and 21st of this board 2025.
If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I move to accept item number 1 and approve it.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mr. Town?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The second item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 5-year manufacturer's exemption reports. They are requested by Mr. Chad. He's the assessor, personal property assistant supervisor for Oklahoma County. So we'll hear about our report.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I believe each of you have received our report as just an Excel document, as it has been in the past. Excuse me. Listing the companies and other detailed information that's involved in this program. We just ask that you approve this report. And I did make some notes regarding there's 17 total companies involved. That includes 51 personal property accounts and 5 real estate. And this year, new applications, so XM1s for 25, there's 15 total. 13 personal property and 2 real estate.
When was that? They're being reviewed, right? The new applications.
Yes, we're going to submit those to OTC after we have those forms signed by the clerk. Just for a numbers point, on the XM1, the market value of all the personal and real estate for 25, of course, this is still subject to approval, is a little over $48 million of market value.
Okay.
I had a question, and it's probably not germane to the final vote, but the Amazon distribution center, is that on airport trust property? Do you know?
Mr. Tan, I do not know, but I can find out
If you can, then
sure.
And then Global X, I noticed their XM4 to 5 went down $26 million, $29 million to $3 million. I think we may have had them before us. And we had a data mining company last year.
Yes, that was one where
It was because of the obsolescence of the equipment. Like 2 years, it's
Yes, sir.
obsolete.
yes, sir.
I think we gave them a year of accelerated depreciation
Correct.
to catch them up. Okay,
I'll find out which one of those 2 accounts that was associated with
thank you.
and email. If that's sufficient.
So after next year, Amazon goes away.
Yes,
They go on the roads.
they will. They'll get this 4 will turn into a 5 next year. So for 27,
27.
they'll go back to the taxable. But anyone that's a 5 this year will go to the taxable 26.
Well, all right. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Move to approve item number 2 as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Town,
Yes.
Ms. Sellers,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, and Mr. Porter, I ask about.
Will do. Thank you.
Sure. You call.
Yes.
Hello,
Well, good morning. Who's speaking?
Mr. Needleman. Mr. Morty Needham.
Mr. Needham, okay, I'm Ms. Thompson, I'm the chair. Okay, so everybody listen up so I can explain this one time. This is how we operate. I don't think you've appeared in front of us before, have you?
No.
All right, so the assessor has a valuation and you disagree with the valuation. We will hear from you first. You should tell us why you think your value is accurate and why the assessor's value is not. Then we'll hear from the assessor. And because you're the moving party, we will give you the last word. I should tell everybody, we are an appellate body. So we are not here to receive new evidence. If you want to give us some information that you did not give to the assessor, you have to say that, and the assessor has to say whether or not he doesn't mind. If he doesn't want to hear the new evidence, we don't hear it because this is an appeal, and anything you bring in front of us, you should have already brought in front of it. We do not make our decision today. We meet on Thursday to make our decision, and you will be notified of our decision by mail. And I understand you're in New Jersey. If you're the person we're communicating with, maybe Monday you'll get it. If you're lucky, Saturday, but I doubt it, probably Monday. Okay.
No problem.
No problem. Okay. I understand that the assessor has this property had it valued at $3,313,200, and during your session with them, it was lowered to $2,300,000. You, however, only want it valued at $1 million. And I should also tell everybody, we are not concerned with your taxable value, only the fair market value. So that's what a willing buyer and a willing seller would pay for the property. The taxable is a totally different matter. I know people think the valuation swings how much taxes you owe. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so tell us why you think this property is only valued at $1 million.
So basically, this property is a border property. Usually, every single unit is border up. As many times as the owners tried to invest in this property, it came down that after vandalism and after a lot of incidents that happened in this property is closed down currently, with none of the units out of the 126 units is currently online. Everything is border up. The owners wants to reinvest in this property, and for the several past years, taxes were in the range of $12,000 with a significant lower taxable market value, which increased in 2022, which at that time, the owner did not know what to do in regards to if he wants to sell it or he wants to invest, and therefore he didn't appeal properly because he was not fully focused on this. But now he's come to a decision that he wants to invest in this property, reinvest, build it up, have this new entire community, and currently he is bleeding out. So he is currently working on putting investors together and making this a better community and build up literally every unit, rent them out, and will be a benefit for the Oklahoma City and the nearby area. So therefore, he got a quote from $5.3 million that will cost them to literally invest from brand new HVAC system, appliances, everything. All the units are literally in a place where each unit needs $100,000 at minimum. And I was there myself, and I took some photos, and I shared the photos with the assessor. But luckily, the estimate came through after I was in touch with the assessor. The owner sent it to me afterwards, and therefore, this was not submitted as an assessment. When I was in touch with
we're not going to take
it.
Wait, excuse me. Now, you heard me say at the very beginning, if you didn't give something to the assessor, you couldn't give it to us, right? And now you just did that?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it was in our packet. There was a one sheet.
But, okay, go ahead. Are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished though, unless I'm done. I'm finished.
And it's It's your statement that every single property is boarded up. When is the last time you visited Oklahoma City?
Again, you got cut off. Sorry.
When is the last time you visited Oklahoma City?
I was there for 2 weeks ago.
I passed by there and I don't see that every single unit is boarded up. Is that your statement?
It's boarded up from the inside, meaning every single unit is literally bad. And I can give you access next time I'm there, and I can arrange access for you if you would like to pass them by.
Okay, we're here
But-
from the assessor. But wait, how did you arrive at $1 million?
Again,
How did you arrive at $1 million?
$1 million, because at some value, I understand, and I completely understand that the land is valued for $1 million, but based on the amount of investment that has to go into this apartment, and I shared this quote afterwards for $5.3 million. I wouldn't think it has any value. Technically, if you would love to sell it, you can only sell it at 1 million or even below this price.
Okay, we're here from the assessor.
Hi, Mr. Niederman. My name's Jason
Yes.
Hill. I'm a valuation analyst for Oklahoma County Assessor's Office. And
Hi, how are you?
good. Here's the notes we have from the hearing. 2025 hearing change. Lowered value based on interior condition of units. There is an ongoing remodel and the property is currently unoccupied. I explained to the agent that once the remodel is finished, the market and tax flow will be increased. I emailed the NOD to the agent, Morty Niederman, on 3/31/25. Then there's another note here that says, after I sent the NOD to the agent, Morty Niederman, he emailed me and said there was an error in their unit calculations during the appeal. He changed his asking value to $1 million. I told him I had already made my decision and there was nothing else I could do at this point. If he wanted to pursue it, he could follow the instructions at the bottom of the NOD. My emails are saved along with the hearing. And I went through here and made a couple notes here. So this property has sold twice in 2022. One on 1/19 of 2022 for $3,310,000. And then the day after it sold again for $2,900,000. Currently, it's on for $17,424 a unit, which was decreased down from $26,355 per unit. The market value, the $2.3 million value that the hearing officer put this value on, was the value requested at the informal hearing on this OTC 974 form. And it appears that it had condition issues prior to these purchases in 2022.
So the assessor's position is those conditions are already baked in.
Yes, and the purchase price of 2022.
What's the discrepancy in the number of units? What are we looking at, 126 or 131 or?
We have this on at 132 units, I believe. Yep.
And then, because I was looking at, are you all willing to accept that rough estimate they have for the upgrades? Because that may affect what the board may consider on a final.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so we can put that in, that 5.3 million.
But that was not presented during the hearing when the officer worked this.
But you allow us to look at, consider it now.
We would consider.
Okay.
But the $2,000,003 is what they requested.
Yes, that is what was requested.
Okay.
So I didn't look at the quote that they got for the 5.3, but is that stripping it all the way down and starting all over, or that's
That's what, as I looked at it, that's what it appeared to me. Everything
taking it
down
all
to
the way down to
studs,
studs?
which would be about a 70% remodel. I mean, there is value in the framing and the exterior, the shell, I would say.
And is there any issue with us considering the 1 million ask, since that's not what was asked for in the original informal? Are we allowed to now consider the 1 million? Because it sounds like they originally asked for the 2.3 million and the assessor agreed. Then they came back and asked for the 1 after the informal.
We can acknowledge that that's what they're asking, but I don't know how they're gonna get past telling the assessor they would agree to 2.3.
The assessor likes that $2.3 million value.
And how do you respond to his statement that all he wants valued is the value of the land?
No, there's the value in the buildings here. Yeah, I mean, we can't just ignore the buildings. There's value there.
My question is if after owners are investing, we can let the assessor know what we're doing, and as well when it gets leased up. But as a 1 year credit, maybe we can do at a value of 1 million and then increase it as it goes.
No. No. I'm going to tell you no. You cannot ask us to after. Okay, so look and see what the assessor values after you make the improvements, and then if you don't like that, you can bring that back in front of the board next year or whenever this final construction occurs.
At what point did the assessor's office see a $1 million ask? Was it after you rendered?
Yes, it was after. It looks like that was, there was an email sent on Monday, March 31st at 10 a.m. where it was requested the $1 million for this property.
Okay, is that within the statutory timeline?
Well, it was after the hearing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was after the hearing. So it looks like the notice of decision was made on 3/31/2025. The notice of decision was sent out. Let's see. There's some email here between the hearing agent and Mr. Niederman. Looks like the hearing agent lowered it down to $2.3 million on Friday, March 28th.
So on March 28th, you guys sent your notice to reduce it, and then the 31st he asked to reduce the burden.
It looks like the correspondence happened on Friday, March 28th to lower it to $2.3 million. And the notice of decision wasn't sent out until March 31st.
Oh, so they crossed paths.
Yes. The tax agent here, Mr. Niederman, requested $2.3 million for the hearing. The hearing officer put it on for that value, considering the damage and everything that was to that property and the challenges that it faced.
Okay, you get the final word, Mr. Niederman.
Okay, again, I appreciate for letting me appeal and coming up on this goal. Again, the only concern is that this estimate came to me after I was requesting for the $2.3 million, and I'm trying to see if we can work as value of the land itself, because after all, we need to sacrifice as a certain value. And since this owners wants to invest, which is a benefit for the Oklahoma City, for the entire community after, it will be a big abatement for him if we can reduce it to the $1 million.
No.
And that's my...
No, you're mixing up your time. If you want to make improvements and then get a new value, then you come back in front of the board next year. This is a valuation as of December 31st, 2024. And you keep going on what you're going to do. And you're giving no value to the buildings. Okay? So we're going to meet on Thursday and we'll make our decision on Thursday and you'll be notified by mail.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your help.
Okay, so I'm going to close the hearing on BOE number 87 and we'll go back to the original order that we had in the first personal property. The first property will be BOE number 94. Tracy Properties LLC, address 6816 South Westminster Road, and it's
Some appearance forms.
account number R144248045. What's your name?
Fred Tracy.
Tracy. Okay, Mr. Tracy. So you kind of heard what happened between the first one, so you know how this goes. My notes indicate that the assessor has your valuation. He had it at 305,000, dropped it to 292,600. You would like it to be 250,000 valuation, and you base it on an appraisal. I think it's about 18 months old, right?
No, it should be less than a year. I think it was July 2024. Oh wait, goodness, actually, I guess you're right. It was a lot.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead and tell us why you think the valuation should be 253,000.
Just because of the evaluation of the appraisal. I
Yes.
guess within the last 18 months or so, I don't think that it would have increased to that extent. I think from what I remember hearing on the phone, there was some kind of 20% modifier based on it being considered a new construction because renovations were done or something along those lines. Which, if that's how the system works, that's what I have to do. But I don't think that that is reflective of the actual market value. I think the appraisal would be closer, perhaps some percentage lower based on the 253. Could be a little bit more now, but I just think that even the 292 is a bit north of what the actual market value is. The appraisal.
And to clarify, are you asking for 253 or 263?
253.
253.
Was, I think, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hear.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you had a significant remodel.
I guess so. It was more or less like a hoarder house. There was a lot of trash in there. We did new paint, new floors. We needed a new roof. We didn't move any walls or anything crazy like that, like new fixtures.
What's the value that you had in your remodel or your upgrade?
I think it was 60K, maybe something like that. Might have been 70. I think it was 60.
When we hear from Mike, he's going to tell you about changing the year based on that, to explain to you how that occurred. But we will hear from the assessor.
So property is located off 6816 South Westminster Road. Nearest east-west road is Interstate 240. 2025 value was 305,000 at 1,541 square feet, which was $197.92 a square foot. The value was lowered to 292,600 based on the comps, but we also lowered the square footage because we did correct it based on the appraisal that was sent in. So the square footage was lowered from 1,541 to 1,508, which drops it down to 194.03 a square foot. And yes, he is requesting a value of 253. Back in 24, we had the value at 276,500, and that was before we lowered the value to 149,000 because of the condition issues. We had a negative 40% adjustment plus lowering the condition from average to fair because of the status of the property. And then the system figured $146,500 worth of new construction value, removing the adjustments and applying the remodel on the property. Yeah, we had a 25% remodel in 24, so it's accounting for the big jump from where it was on the negative side plus the 25% remodel. And I did want to mention that it was purchased in September of 23 for $115,000, but it was a multi-parcel purchase, so we had to invalidate it. I want to point out that also the value in 23 we had at $272,000, and the comps that we used the comps that were provided in the appraisal.
Okay.
And that's where we lowered the value based on the three comps that were provided that we used to the appraisal.
Did he sufficiently explain to you the 25% upgrade?
We talked about that on the phone. I'm not sure I understand actually how that works, but
Why don't you
I'm
explain?
sure you explained it.
Well, anytime that there's, damage to the property, well, we're gonna make negative adjustments for it to help the taxpayer, the homeowner for the year, because you really shouldn't pay full value on a property that is not livable. So that's when, anytime that happens, we automatically establish a remodel from our office. So for it to get back up to, code or livable. So anytime that happens, you're putting in supplies, you're providing work or a remodel to a property that is using, the materials from today. So you're obviously making it a little bit nicer compared to the original year built of the house. It's still going to have an original year built of the property, but anytime that you add something new that's based on today's standards, you're improving the age of the property. That's why we have an effective year built age, and that's why based on what you told us during the informal, we provided a small remodel percentage. The most we can do is 75%. And that's if the property was brought down to studs and you pretty much redid the entire inside, which obviously wasn't the case for you. But we actually cleaned it up. You cleaned it up a little bit and made it more standard for today. And that's the reason why for that percentage remodel.
Can I ask, you mentioned last year's market value was 246,000, but I'm showing that your website says it was 149,000.
He
No.
did that.
It was before we made the change during the informal. Before this was brought to our attention
So
about
it
the
was
condition.
reduced to 149.
Correct. Yeah, it was 276,500 at the beginning of 24, and then it was brought into us about the condition. That's where we lowered it
Okay.
to 149.
Now, the only other thing I think that you guys are not agreeing on, or he doesn't understand, you gave you gave a figure of the effective cost was 100 and
The $146,500 is the amount our system calculated for the new construction value.
right. You disagree with that?
Yeah, the amount, in other words, the amount of value that was added based on the renovations that I did was like 150K or so, 146. Is that what I don't think it would have added that much value. Well, I haven't really done that analysis in my head, I suppose.
Did you say that's how much in value or how much you thought they spent in renovations?
No, that's based on the system. That's how our system calculates the new value. I don't have that breakdown in front of me. That's only up to my sales analyst that can break down that value. I don't have that in front of me. That's what our system calculated the new construction value by, not just the remodel percentage being added, but the native adjustments also being taken off.
Did you consider the July of 24 appraisal in your evaluation?
We didn't necessarily agree with the value, but we did use the comps that were in the appraisal and our analysis to
I noticed that.
support the lowering a little bit, not to what he's wanting, but we did use the comps.
We gave you the final rate.
Okay, I guess my math was wrong. I think it was about 9 months ago instead of 18 months
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, I was
No, it's okay.
Anyway, I know that there are systems that, in terms of what use and so on. I guess my only thing is, as of about 9 months ago, the appraisal was done after all of the renovations were done. And I get that there's a kind of a 3% modifier. But I think that the appraised value, since it was done after the renovations, should be indicative, pretty close to what market value is. So I think we're still a bit past there, and if that's sort of based on modifiers that have to go into it, I think it should be taxed at what the appraised value is, and not necessarily how the system works, the computer system works, or whatever. And I
It's
think
not taxed. There's a taxable value. What is the taxable value?
our market value is the wrong word.
Yeah, you did. Okay. That's it.
I think probably the market value is closer to what the appraisal is, because that's I think what an appraisal appraises. And that was done after the renovations, so that's kind of hopefully getting closer to that. That's all.
How long after you finished did you get your appraisal? You know?
Well, it was usually pretty quick. It could have been a month or two. Because it took a while to get the seller out. We had to. He was trying to stay there, and so we renovated real quick. There's probably one or two after. So
Is this a rental property?
it is true. We might move it.
What?
It's a rental rate.
What's the rental rate per month?
1950.
Okay. We will meet on Thursday and we'll decide then, and we'll notify you by then. Let's, or sure.
Am I just reading it, I guess?
Yes.
All right, well, this is interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm closing the hearing on BOE number 94. And we're gonna open the hearing on BOE 96, 1108 Northwest 29th. Who's here for that one? You are, okay. What's your name? Chow? Vin Chow. Okay, I understand that the assessor has the property valued at $192,000, and you would like for it to be at $125,000. For the record, this is R0511-04-120. Okay, tell us what you'd like for us to consider on the $125,000 valuation.
It's about this home, the house with the garage about falling down. I have not taken it down yet. It's still tilting there, unusable, and the house has a sewer system problem. So it's like a lot of smell in there. That's why I bought it for that price.
What did you pay for it?
$125.
Okay, and when did you buy it?
2020. The end of 2023.
23. Okay.
I'm still fixing it, and I did have change of sewage and had some time to move in, and we couldn't live there because it's still smelling. I thought it just a sewage and change, so right now it's still going on problem.
Okay.
And I still fixing with the outside gutter, whatever water problem,
Yes.
and that's what I bought it for the price. And also consider with a lot of home around there,
Yes.
the price is about that price. But if I think they send me the compatible homes into the past for sale area, which is I lived there for 4, 5, 10 years. So we over here we call a poor area. Over there is a rich area. It's totally different. It's just so next to each other. So if you consider what home in this area, I understand the price will be similar. Go to like Classen or Penn or Kentucky, India, those areas.
Yeah.
If compared to the for sale area, I can't take those price with home. So neat neighbor, this neighbor next door, I've been complaining for so many times to the city that they have chicken and they live dirty. So that's why the home couldn't sell because the neighbor had 40 chickens in there with dog and surrounding is people just wouldn't pay for that. So it consider certain area instead of just the value of the nice area. I understand.
Is there a stoplight on 30th and Western?
Yes.
And so this is one block south of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The very poor area. Then right across from me, but totally abandoned property.
When do the churches start? The churches
The
on
church on
North.
32nd.
The churches on Thursday.
Yeah, I go to that
Thursday,
church.
29.
I sing in that church. It's
Okay.
pretty nice, very nice church. And then the surrounding
I was just over there. I went to the market there yesterday. So I'm just trying. I know there's a light at 30.
then the electric GE. Right
Yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
And, I do have a property on the 30th too. I have so much problem with homeless.
Yes.
Every day I had to come and check and they burn things and it's just like it's crazy.
Okay. Okay, we're here from the assessor.
All right, this is on 4901 Larissa Lane, which is Northwest 30th and Western and Northwestern Avenue. The 25 value and the notice of decision is $192,169.76 a square foot. It was a valid arm's length transaction purchase in December of 23 for $125,000. The home was built in 1947. There is no remodel on it. So it's been untouched. It's fair quality at 1131 square feet. They are requesting a value of $125,000, which would put it at $110.52 a square foot. The value last year was $182,500, and the 23 value was $128,000. And what I did is I ran some comps ranging from 996 square feet to 1,327 square feet. They used all 24 sales, all the same quality, all homes that have not been remodeled.
Okay.
And I have a median value of 192,801 with a mean of 193,797. And the median value currently supports what the current market value is, so that's the reason why I could not make any adjustments to it.
And did she present to you in the informal the issues with the sewage and the plumbing in the garage?
No.
I did, we spoke someone on the phone.
On the phone in the
I
informal?
don't know if we got the phone when we did call.
Now there was mention, yes, I'm sorry. As far as pictures, no, but there was mention of there had to be some work done, but the garage is not the best, but it's still a standing garage.
Is that included in your valuation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Do you
land.
have a picture? Okay.
Is that the garage?
That is the garage.
Is it attached?
No, it's
No.
detached.
Detached.
See the car in front of it?
Should have, no car.
This is the
Oh,
house.
that was from the
Yeah, this is the garage.
Is there a limit, isn't there a city ordinance limiting the number of chickens you can have?
I think,
Isn't it six?
yes, no, the neighbor have a lot.
Well, I know, did you
The
have,
limit 6, only chicken, no
Right.
rooster, but they have a lot.
you call action
I did.
line?
I had to work so hard on that house.
Okay.
There's the chickens. There's the chickens.
So this is funny, really funny. I know that house, they have so many chickens, and they did move them. And they said, oh yes, they move them. And then the next day, I know they move them all to the other house. Like, right, they have 2 houses back to back.
Right.
They move them over there and said, oh my God. And then the city come back, no chicken. After they passed that, they push the chicken back. So, oh my God, chicken came back. I had to call again. So it's 2 times. So they had to check 2 houses. They own
They
2
saw
houses.
them, the second time they came, the city found the chickens.
Yes.
Okay.
So they finally moved them, but they really had a problem.
Can you get a street view of that garage?
Yeah.
I
Try-
should have picture, but it's falling. You don't want to walk in it. The land of the garage is totally raised up very much because it fall on south.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to. Where they
There's
do.
yellow
Because it's
some,
back.
but the guy tried to take a picture to
Actually,
sell.
there is a MLS listing in 23, so go back to the AP5. This-
But it's from 23.
Correct.
What we're getting a look at, it's not current.
Right.
Okay, so that's where it shows it's a standalone.
So,
Can I
what,
show you this picture?
what is the percentage
That's the garage.
increase, 182 to 192?
Eleanor, do you want to consider her picture on her phone?
The picture I took,
Garage.
like
Do you care?
it already cracked in half without falling. This I took pretty quick because I didn't want to walk in there. It's already raised up one side, so look at the, pictures. Yeah, this is its side.
That's
That's why
Oh,
they
5.4,
fall
that's
down
not big.
one side.
so. At this moment, you're telling us that the house is not rented, right?
I try to have someone to move out, it's still a lot of straw smell. I still don't know what to do, seriously,
What was the rent?
$1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked, I feel months to get paying tax, and that is impossible. Paying insurance and taxes will be gone. Normally for that, I have few rental home, I'll consider like pretty much like 10% of my, but this is like not even 5% of what it is, so it's pretty, this area is different. Just beg you to consider like totally different area. A lot of Asian, they're all Vietnamese,
Yes.
so I can't even rent to like, for the bigger market for other people, mostly Vietnamese, and we consider Asian price really low.
Okay.
So it's not.
Can I ask why the 2023 market value was 128,000 and then it jumped in 24 to 182? Do we have any record of, was it appealed in 23 or something?
I didn't know. This is my very first time, my very first experience. I'll give myself very good credit here. I didn't know. I didn't catch that one. I wish I'd done that.
So what did you say you paid for the house in December of 23? Huh? One time. That's
So maybe that's why it was valued at 128 and 23.
Well, I mean, it was just based on whatever the values were going for in that area at that time, but.
It's a big jump though between 23 and 24.
Right. But,
You didn't know I could appeal if I should.
I do agree, because the pictures were not presented during the informal, but I do agree with you
Right.
that the garage is not what it needs to be. So if it's okay with the board, I can make some adjustments to the garage and come back with a different value on decision day this week. Because I wouldn't be able to have that in front of me, but I can definitely.
Right. The picture didn't show because the guy tried to take to sale, so he tried to put it this way.
Right.
But
I do agree that the garage is not in the best of shape because based on that, the cracks, you can't truly use that garage for.
It's till Friday. Thursday.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, if you don't mind.
Pass it till Thursday.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay. So for now, I will temporarily close this one.
Thank you very much.
Would you mind sending me that picture?
I can email you.
Yeah,
Is that the email I can?
I don't care what email. Can
I have a better picture to send.
okay. Let me,
Can I have the email?
yeah.
Yeah.
So whoever's on 49 can come forward. XYZ Properties, 12717 Silver Lane. What's your name? Hamlin?
Hamlin.
Hamlin. Okay, Mr. Hamlin. This is R188411020, and I show that the assessor has valued this property at $158,500. This 12717 Silver Lane. And you would like to have us value the property at $94,105. Is that correct? With the paper.
Maybe what the paper said. Before we start, or as we start, there's a little bit misunderstanding here.
Okay.
In the formal appeal documents, it says that at this hearing, we can produce books, records, papers, and necessary information. And you're saying that everything is restricted to what was presented at informal hearing.
Right.
I think that what I
have to present at this hearing is the same as the informal hearing. But if you're restricting and not allowing any evidence for this hearing, if you're only restricting to what was put at an informal hearing, without notifying that in the paperwork, that's a misrepresentation.
If they don't disagree, then you can present it. Just why don't you just give me what you want to give me, and then they can tell me if they don't want it considered.
All right.
Okay.
All right. First thing is,
Were my figures accurate? You would like to have us valued?
I think so. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I wanted, just so you have information,
Sure.
before this hearing, there were 3 other notices for hearings on different weeks. One of those notices I received by email and by mail, and 2 of the notices I only received by mail.
Okay.
I think that all your notices ought to go out by email. One letter goes out by email and mail, and then the other 2 just go out by mail. Can be very confusing.
One's a preliminary agenda, and then we finally set the agenda. It's permanent in that
No,
house.
the letters that I have here for you were all permanent. And then
Are these notices from the clerk's office or from the assessor's office?
clerk's office.
Okay.
I have it all here that I'm going to present to you so that you can keep it for your records.
Okay.
Of these 3 letters prior to this letter date, 3 came by mail, and one of the 3 that came by mail also came by email, but the other 2 did not come by email. So it can be very confusing as to what's going on.
Were the dates different?
No, yes, the dates were all different.
Okay.
So
That's right. We had to cancel and reschedule. Sorry about that.
right, but everything that you mail should also go by email.
I've got you. I have you. Okay.
All right. Then the next thing is that the letter says that you have to appear in person, but I understand that you can do it over the telephone.
Yes.
Like this gentleman did. Your notification should change so that you are notified that you can do it by telephone.
You have to request it.
But it doesn't say that you can request it.
Okay.
So that information letter also ought to be changed so that people know that they can request it by telephone.
You would have rather appeared by telephone?
Well, I travel a lot, and fortunately, I happen to be in town today.
Okay.
But last month, I was gone for a whole month. And next week, I'm gone for another month, and then I'm gone for 4 months. So I'm never here. So, so that people can know that they can do it by phone would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay. So I received this updated assessment notice, and it just looked a little bit high. And I looked at the properties that we're comparing them to, and those were single-family residences, and this is a duplex.
Okay.
So I thought that a duplex ought to be compared to other duplexes. And on that street, they're all duplexes, so the comparisons ought to be similar duplexes because they all look the same on the outside. They may have a little bit more square footage. I have these paperwork here for you that I can give to you. So anyway, for the assessor to value the property of a duplex compared to a single-family residence is very confusing. Comparing a duplex to a duplex, I think, would be appropriate. Next thing is that for appraisals, you can do sales approaches, you can do price per square foot, you can do value or cost per square foot or income. This is not income producing property.
It is or is not?
Is not.
Okay.
It's a residence. It's my residence.
You live on both sides, or you just own one side?
I just own one side.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, in in the exhibits, 6 through whatever, CD, shows the pictures of all these duplexes. They all look the same, except maybe, one garage has a brown garage instead of a, white garage, door. But they're all the same. They're all, flat roofs. The size of them varies. Some are a little bigger, some a little bit smaller. But if you look at each one, should be assessed at the same price per square foot. So based on that,
What did you pay for this?
I paid $99,000,
When, in what year?
2018.
Okay.
Now, getting into Exhibit A, 8A, and 8B, it shows the different, the values. Let me back up one more point. On the assessor's website, they use market value and taxable market value, not fair cash value or taxable fair cash value.
Correct.
On their website. So they're causing a lot of confusion there as to what it actually is. So that ought to be corrected. Just an idea that they ought to.
That both of those are listed, correct? Fair market value and
No.
taxable.
No, if you look at Exhibit 4B, it says market value and taxable market value. It does not say fair cash value and taxable fair cash value.
Okay.
So they ought to change their website presentations to what,
Why don't you run for assessor?
well, I have too much to do.
Okay, just kidding.
It's just something that they ought to correct so that there's no confusion, because it caused me a lot of confusion
Okay.
when I was really going through this. So on 8A and 8B are my assessments for 2019, 2024, 25, and also the other properties on the same street, the other duplexes, which have the same look, same construction, same flat roofs, and what their market value is, their market value per square foot, the taxable market value per square foot, taxable value, taxable cash value, and then the taxable market value per square foot. And mine is up at $94 per square foot, and some of these other ones are down to $62. Similar properties. So there's a big difference between something on the same street. Mine is escalated high at 94, where other people are being 64. So either I should be taxed at what they're getting, or they should be taxed at what I'm getting. In other words, increase the tax or lower my tax.
Okay, let's hear from the assessor. You're right.
Now, one other thing. So I don't recall if he had these spreadsheets when we originally talked. I think we did, but I don't know that I was restricted to talk now what I presented to him, but your notice said that I could present evidence, so this is evidence. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you is that condominiums are usually, each unit in a condominium, they basically have the same values, and their assessments and their taxes are basically the same, depending on their square footage. Some are a little bit more if it's a bigger unit, smaller unit. And that should be the similar thing for a duplex. The duplexes should, since they're similar, they ought to all be taxed the same. When I was doing some research on the last exhibit here, 9, there's a condominium duplex, unit 222, has a taxable value and an
We don't,
assessment.
we do not do the
Okay.
taxable.
But this is what I want to tell you. There is no tax on that property.
What do you mean?
No.
there's no tax?
The assessor is not taxing that property.
So they could have a full 100% veterans exemption on there where they don't pay any taxes. That's why we can't use taxable market value, because there's exemptions, there's reductions. If someone sells a house, then it's brought up to the fair market value, where you haven't sold your house and you're 7 years old or 8 years old, and it hasn't had a reset really.
Right. But over time, the property has been changed to different people. Sure that they're not all veterans over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's still taxable at zero value.
Now, we can't concern ourselves with taxable values because of those differences. That's why we have to do the fair market value between a willing buyer and a willing seller. That's our metric we have to use.
Okay, well, then that is not providing equal protection. Because in this case, on this spreadsheet, these people do not have exemptions, but they're taxed at a lower rate than I am.
You don't know that they don't have, all exemptions are not 100%. You don't know that.
Well, I'm going by the tax records that the treasurer has.
You gotta stop with the tax. I said from the very beginning, we do not concern ourselves with taxable value. We concern ourselves with the fair market value. When you got your notice, it had 2 values on it. We do not concern ourselves with the taxable value, and your arguments that you keep presenting to us are taxable values. I don't know how much plainer
Well,
I can make it that we don't concern ourselves with that.
They put on here taxable fair cash value last year, this year. That's what's on this assessment. Taxable fair cash value, that's what they put on this paperwork. So if you're not.
How many values are on that paper?
3.
What are they?
No, actually, 5. They have current fair cash value market, taxable fair cash value, assessed value. And for the assessed value, there's last year and this year. For the taxable fair cash value, there's last year and this year. And then there's a current fair cash value market.
That's the one we're concerning ourselves.
Well, then we have a dispute.
No, we don't.
That's statutory for us. That's our boards of equalization are concerned with fair market value. That's what we're
By the
charged with.
Constitution, by the
Doing
Constitution.
everything so that
Wait a minute, so that who?
you are skewing everything.
Not us.
Well, someone is, the assessor, the treasurer, the state. I don't care that one property here is paying $65 per square foot, and right over here it's $94
Okay,
per square foot.
we've heard your argument. Let's listen to what the assessor's argument is and see if you can understand confining it to fair market value. Go ahead.
Okay, this property, we have off of the major intersections are Northwest 122nd and North May. Square footage of this particular property is 1,365 square feet. Average quality year built of 1983. It was a valid arm's length transaction purchase in February of 2018 for $100,000. The initial value this year is $158,500 at $116.12 a square foot. It was lowered to $150,500, $110.26 a square foot. He is asking for $94,105. I do want to point out that the 24 value was $167,500. In 23, it was $151,000, and in 22, it was $122,500. And then as far as market value and fair cash value, taxable market value, taxable fair cash value, those are the same thing. And if you wanted that stuff to be changed, you would have to contact the Oklahoma Tax Commission. Say the owner wanted, Mr. Hamlin wanted to compare invalid sales to his property, thinking it should be around 94,000.
By an invalid sale, you mean?
I'm sorry, we have them classified as invalid. For example, 12721 Silver Lane, which was one of the comps provided, it last sold in 1999. We have it invalid because it was between related parties. I will point out that 12713, 12709, 12705 are valid sales, but they occurred in 2006 and 2009. 12701 Silver Lane is the original owner. 2824 Silver Tree Drive is a valid sale, but it last sold in 2002. I want to say that he still wanted to argue the value using these invalid and unusual sales. We tried to explain to him the differences in these properties compared to his while flipping through the invalid accounts. The appraiser asked Mr. Hamlin if he could present any further data. He did not, and stated that he was ready to go to the board. The owner, Mr. Hamlin, wanted to argue over taxable and not the market value. All numbers that were used by Mr. Hamlin were all based on taxable value and not market value. And we are using other duplexes to come up with the value. And we're looking at valid transaction duplexes. And so if we can't...
So there's no homes, no residential homes in yours?
No, the
Only
report
duplexes.
provided was all duplexes. And with duplexes, we can go back as far as 21. With any sale, whether it's residential or a duplex or a condominium, the most we can go back is to 21. And in order to find sales, we can do that. So there may not necessarily be enough in a given year, so we can go back, but we're only going to be using duplexes to go
What
back.
was the years of your
Yours
terms?
are all 21, 22, and 1, 23. So
Right.
assuming there were no other 23 or 24.
Correct. If there
sales.
were, they're more than likely going to be invalid. But the appraiser who did this report is very good at what he does, and I trust his judgment, and that's why we are where we're at.
What did you reduce your value based on? What was your reduction based
It
on?
was based on the comps that we provided.
So you're now at 150.
We are at 150. The median does say 147,757, so I can go down to 147,757 based on the median. But other than that, I won't go down anymore.
Just because we've heard taxable value so much, what is the taxable value of this property?
Currently have the taxable value at, go to NOD. Yeah, 128,230.
Thank you.
Okay, let me I've got just one question from Sam, one only. If you bought your property in February of 18, the value that we set is as of December 31st of the year. So from February of 2018 to December of 2024, you're losing $5,000 valuation off of what you purchased that's what you want us to do? You bought this at 99 to 100,000 and you want us to value it at 94,100. Man, it just defies logic unless you
No,
did your house burn?
90.
It's habitable? No, listen to what I'm saying. You want us to value your property almost 5 years, well, actually 5 years, 5.5 years, almost 6 years after you bought it at $5,000 less than you paid for it. That's your argument.
That's based on those, the,
No, just, you want us valuing your property less than what you paid for it, isn't that correct?
the other duplexes on the street
No,
have
sir.
their value.
You want us to value your property less than what you paid for it, almost 6 years later. Yes or no?
On 8A, yes. On 8B, no.
Okay. We are gonna meet on Thursday to make our decision. And you will be notified of our decision by May. So I'm gonna close the hearing on BOE number 49 and open the hearing on BOE 86, which is 6720 South Triple X Road, number R144414975. What's your name, please? Birgit?
Yes.
I understand that the assessor has valued this property at $159,757, and you would like to have us value it at $25,040.
Yes.
$25,045.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us how you arrived at that value.
I'll just start off, got here, if that's all right, y'all.
Did you appear in front of us last year?
I did. And this is one of the same properties. Y'all said you wouldn't listen to me last year because it was, not what the term is, a late notice or untimely notice on that deal, which, when I read in state law, it wasn't. But anyway, that was then, this is now.
Okay.
This is the map. This is from Oklahoma City, okay? And it's basically outlining that same thing up there. I got this roughly 35 years ago
Yes,
when I started buying these properties right here, okay?
that's right.
And it didn't have, like the house I live in at 6,800. This property I'm talking about is 6720, okay?
Yes.
That's the only property that had a Oklahoma City address.
Okay.
So I had to go down to Oklahoma City and get addresses because we were going to try to eventually build a house at 6,800. Not sure what we were going to do at 6,740 and 6,760. But while I was down there one trip, get physical addresses for all three properties. Okay. So anyway, 6720, it's part of our trust owned by me and my wife. We're the executors. And I'm going to try to give you this history of it according to records that I submitted to you guys. Mike Bland purchased this property from the White family in January of 91. At the time he purchased the property, it had a 1965, 832 square foot salvaged home on the property. In 1996, Bland obtained some type of a remodel building permit. Not sure what that is. It's on page 12 of the documents that I submitted to you. In 1997, Bland began living in this remodeled house, according to some pictures I found in the cabinets of the house after we purchased it. We had, anyway, I found the cabinets, I found those pictures in there and found some dates on them and stuff. I couldn't provide any color pictures. I brought some pictures of the house, but the house is, I guess, when he remodeled, at least when we bought it, the house was pretty much like it looks right now, bricked, all this, just basically the way it looks right now. Okay. The only difference is you couldn't see this house from there.
Because, yeah,
it was completely covered in trees, and I mean some of them growing into the roof and everything else. It took us, I don't know, a year and a half to hire a dozer come in and clean up the property. Anyway, Bland owned it from 91 to 2009. Sometime during that time, and I couldn't figure out on the county records when, but he moved the 1978 mobile home onto the property. In 2006, my wife and I noticed Mr. Bland spending less and less time at the house. And at that time, I already owned the 3 adjacent properties surrounding it. In 2007, we began considering the possibility of purchasing this property from Mr. Bland
after we observed that he and his wife appeared to have abandoned it, and that's all the vegetation growing up and things like that nature. He was some kind of self-proclaimed mechanic. I don't know. I didn't know the guy very well, but probably had about 15 or 20 different cars, trucks, mobile home, boats. I mean, the property was nasty. I contacted Mr. Bland regarding purchasing property, and at that time in 2006, and I submitted some of those documents, started looking at property value. About 2 or 3 years there, he wasn't sure. He said his wife and he had divorced, and he had moved out of state, and he wasn't really ready to sell. And but I stayed in contact with him, and finally, in October of 2009, we were able to purchase the property from Bland in its as-is condition for $39,500, and that's documented on the county records there. The property was, as I said, heavily overgrown with all the vegetation, cars, trucks, and boats. It was obvious that Bland had been living in the house prior to him and his wife abandoning it. It was furniture, queen-size waterbed, clothing, just stuff that was, they just left. At that time, the county assessor listed a market value of $57,635 with a taxable value of $52,335. But again, we paid $39,500 for it. In 2010, I contacted county assessor's office regarding the mobile home that was on there, trying to, reduce the taxes even further. He came out, he inspected the property at that time. I bought it as is, so I didn't have titles to anything. So, and I also told him we had moved our farm from Cleveland County up here to Oklahoma County. So I'm trying to get all this stuff back into agriculture. It was residential when I purchased 6720. Assessor came out to the property and advised that we couldn't move that mobile home without a title. So I demoed it right there. Construction containers, whole mess. It wasn't salvageable anyway. Didn't even have a floor in it. It was just a shell, basically. And then he said that he would have to come out and confirm that it had been demoed before he could make any adjustments. Anyway, so he made 2 trips out there, and I was able to show him that we had demoed it and removed the mobile home. And then we spent a year and a half with dozers and stuff trying to clear out the vegetation. I had to cut up these old cars to get them on my trailer, haul them down to the junk iron place, and just start cleaning up the property. Excuse me. But he did come out, and he inspected, saw that it was gone, and talked to him about converting it over. And in 2010, he did that.
Should we put it to agriculture?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except the land where the house is.
I'm sorry.
Except the land where the house is.
Well, I don't know how that works. I know
a house can never be classified agriculture, so they take an acre and surround the house.
Right, and I know talking to Karen, they said they usually a minimum of 1 acre for the house.
Right.
This one sits on less than a half acre. Where this house sits, it's on less than a half acre. It's right up very close to the road.
Is that because you own the adjacent properties surrounding this lot? That they could expand it, that they could consider you could use part of that half acre as agriculture?
I'm not sure
No,
what your question is.
they gave half acre instead of an acre for the rest.
No, as far as I know, they're taking the full acre instead of it just being on an acre. But anyway, he went ahead and converted them to agricultural property of 3 of these
parcels.
Yeah, right. So in 2011, or in 2010, he combined all 3 of these, not 68
right.
where my house is, but he put all 3 of these under one R number. I wasn't real sure why he did that, but it specifically said, and it's documented on your records, it would describe the physical of 6720, and then it said and then it had the physical for 6740, and then and 6760. Okay.
Otherwise, you're gonna get just nothing but meets and bounds for the description, but you got them to give an address.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Through Oklahoma City.
Sure.
I don't know how this works between y'all and Oklahoma City, but I'm not sure there's a really good avenue of communication for that, because of how this whole thing has transpired. But anyway, in 2011, county assessor listed the property with a market value of $34,000.
Well, wait, I don't want to interrupt you, but you're here basically on valuing that one parcel for the tax year 2024. Could you just, what was the value that the assessor put on it in 2024?
Okay, so when I'll try to answer that question best I can. In 2022, my daughter, who's here last year with me, she got a building permit in December of 2021 to build a house on this parcel of 6740.
Right.
Okay, they started the house in 2022. I don't remember, but like I said, she just got the permit in December of 2021. So sometime in 2022, they started building the house.
Okay.
Before she started building the house, if y'all can remember from last year, she contacted Oklahoma County Assessor trying to figure out so that she could afford the property taxes there, how much for this particular house. Some gal named Brenda told her approximately $1,400 for their property value. Okay. So in 2022, I got with these three properties combined, I got a new tax statement, and it was around $1,400. Well, I anticipated that, according to what my daughter told me with her.
Right.
This is during COVID, and you couldn't meet with nobody to save your life in person. Everybody wants to talk to you on the phone. Anyway, sometime, and I don't know when, in 2022, assessor came out there. He had to drive by this little house at 6720 and go back here and look at this house at 6740. Well, apparently on his way out, he realized that there's somebody living in this house. Okay. Well, according to Karen here, this house was listed as a salvage home. I don't know. All I know is on the county records is it was remodeled in 96, which tells me that Oklahoma City maybe didn't tell you guys that it got a remodel permit on there and that somebody started living in it in 97. Just the land did. Anyway, then in 2023, the property tax went from $1,400 to around $5,000.
Right.
And we couldn't figure out why. And that's when I made the first protest. And then through that process, the only way I knew to get this back to the reasonable understanding was to get these three properties back to their individual R numbers.
That's correct.
Okay. And that was a nightmare because after talking to a lady named Van Clark down there, some dude named Tim didn't know what he was doing, and he established new R numbers for these two properties.
Uh-huh.
And she said he should not have done that. He should have, it was called a reopening, and put them back to their original R numbers. But he fought, I've had nothing but arguments with everybody I've ever talked to down there, because I got a different.
So which parcel are we arguing here over the 25,000 versus not the one where your daughter is?
No, 6720. I had to tell this to you so I could tell you that I've got these separated.
I kind of remember this
Yeah.
from last year.
And so the bottom line is that 6720, this house in question,
Right.
in 2023, when they realized this wasn't a $500,000 house sitting up here, somebody in her office told them to throw the rest of that money back on 6720, which was $147,000. You following me so far?
Yes. But what did we do last year?
Nothing. Y'all wouldn't listen to me. So anyway, I'm talking with Karen. I found out what they did, and they put a new market value in 2023, a new market value on this property for a market value in 2023. But I've owned that house and that land right there since 2009.
Yes.
And state law says you can't do that. State law, unless you add a building to it, or if you add on to that structure or something.
It was, well, but they took it away from the one where your daughter is, so you gotta acknowledge that split out from the other three, of the other two.
For the R number, but it was still had its individual square footage to describe the parcel all along this whole time. It never changed
Okay,
on that R number. That never changed.
okay.
What was your 23 value?
Well,
Not market value.
That was 444,240.
I could
Yeah,
speak
what?
on that.
Okay,
So you're correct. It had both buildings. It had the small parcel and the daughter's home on the same one. But I was able to find out that value. I had to go all the way back to 21 to find what the value of this one actually was.
before they got combined.
Yeah, and it was 129,267.
That was 22.
Well, 21 is when we were there. 22 is when the value got on, and 21, he actually already, Mr. Brigade already said something about it.
AB. I don't do that, Mr. Stuff. You call me AB.
That's when the appraiser saw that it was occupied, so he took it off of salvage.
So the 24 value,
24 value was 146,910. And the reason we couldn't hear it here was because that notice, the 30-day deadline had passed, so it was that particular parcel was an untimely appeal at our office, which means that one can't be brought to the board.
Right. So we went from 146,910, and now we're at 157,737.
For now, but I actually have a new value.
Okay.
Because we had a pretty long chat whenever he came in. So the new market value that I am proposing is 137,349. How I arrived at that, it is a little complicated. So I use agricultural properties.
Yes.
So we can't use prognos, what we normally use for all these other residential properties. What I did is I took comp 2, which is double the square footage. So what I did is I took half of the building value of that property plus his land value, and that is how I arrived at the 137,349.
so what we're talking about is an 832 square foot home on
Well, it's 10 acres.
10 acres.
Yeah, the total property size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then only, like we've already stated, the 1 acre is res. The rest is ag.
And so now, our discrepancy in the parties is 137,349 versus 25.
Right. Because they're putting a current market day value on there that on a property. And since we own that property in 2011, the market value was $34,819, and the taxable value was $16,249. And since that time, and again, this is all on your records there, 2015 to 2017, market value decreased from that 34,819 to 29,1239, and then again from 2018. I couldn't find my 2018 to 2019, but in 2020, the market value decreased again from 29,000 to 17,000, and the taxable value became the same price as the market value, and that was in 2020 and 2021. They stayed the same in 20 and 21, and so it didn't. At that 17,539, but they wanted to put a new market value on it. He said in 2022. That property didn't change. The house didn't grow. There was no structures added to it. Nothing. So that's why, and what I tried to do to be reasonable about this with the price that I came up with there is take that, I think it was the 17,539 and do a 3% increase each year on that. Which again, still doesn't get me anywhere close to what county assessors want to charge me for a current market
Now that's
value.
taxable value that you can't,
Sir, that was in 2021. I know what you're going to say.
Right.
But in 2021, that was the market value was 17,539.
He's correct. I did
Right.
look at that.
what I'm saying is 3% is the taxable year to year if you're going to say that's the amount. I mean, we had a 3-year period that market value of homes in Oklahoma County on the average went up 39%.
Sir, I'm giving you a 2021
I'm trying to figure out why
market and taxable.
it
is the
stayed
same.
at that level. Okay,
yeah.
Assessor's office has
because
something on it.
that's the whole crux of this.
Yeah, so the issue is, and I understand where he's coming from on how he's getting his figures. Because the property was originally on for salvage value,
Yeah.
the building had hardly any kind of value. It was like $3,500. Then the rest of it was land.
Yes, but that was the mobile home.
Well, no, this was this building.
Yeah, I removed that mobile home
Okay.
in 2010.
So now we're saying it's occupied.
Yes.
We have not been given any proof that it isn't. And I can tell just from aerial that there has been updates to the property. In 2017, there's a new driveway report.
Yep.
In 2019, it appears that there are finally people living in it. But we actually didn't go out until 21 to find the daughter's house that was built. So we had to take that property off of salvage and give it a brand new market value because it was no longer salvage, it was being lived in. That's the issue.
Right.
And that's why there was a jump. And we are allowed to do that because it was salvage.
AB, are you living in the home?
No.
Okay.
And I can't find anything in state law that says, so that was
That's
where
it.
the concrete is poured right there.
Yes.
It was gravel, so I poured concrete over it. I
Yes.
don't see anything in state law that says that's going to cause you.
Is that not an improvement in your mind? Like a home improvement?
No, that's not improvement to the house.
To the
To the
value,
property.
but the property. The valuation that's being given is not it's a combination of the land and the structure. I don't know how you could ever argue with somebody that a concrete road is less or the same value as gravel. You can't make that.
Then there's a 30 by 30 concrete that I poured there. Okay,
Yes.
there's no covering over it. It's concrete. There's no carport. There's no garage.
The whole crux of it went from a salvage value home on tax records
Okay,
to occupied residential now.
okay. So all you can charge me for, according to the state law, is the 30 by 30 piece of concrete.
No.
I disagree with that. You're in a 890 square foot home, fair condition. Is that it?
Fair quality.
Fair quality.
Yes.
And you want to value that at $25,000. I would just say every other taxpayer in Oklahoma County would be saying, I'd love that deal. To have a house valued at $150,000 and I can live in it, and it's only worth $25,000, and that's my based on that. You know, it does flow through in taxes at that
I
point.
see what you're saying, but what I'm saying here is this house hasn't changed. There were people had been living into it when we bought it.
What
They
they knew and what you're saying may be two different things, and you're just myopically saying this has not changed. This has not changed. Their characterization of it changed
I understand that,
based on knowledge.
but that's not my fault. They should have recognized that in 1996.
Well, now
when they got
wait a minute,
salvaged.
don't make that argument because they could. You made out like a fat rat all those years. So I mean, you don't want to make that. You don't want to make that argument.
That's the question.
Yes.
Is this currently occupied?
Yes.
Yeah, he's living it.
Okay. So someone is living in the property, which takes it off of the $5 a square foot value. That's why we had to place a new market value on the property. It can't just stay at a salvage property because you technically wouldn't be able to get insurance for it if it had the salvage value on it because they use our designation on that to put insurance.
You got lucky.
Okay.
You're overlooking the fact that you got lucky for all those years that they didn't do the revaluation.
Well, then at best, the way I look at this, is it ought to go back to a 2009 market value, not a 2022
No,
or 2023.
no.
2009 was also when it was salvaged. That's the issue.
That's
That's still the problem, and things I try to tell you as well is because it's occupied, it does change that this is no longer a salvage building. So that value from 2009 is, well, one, that's 16 years ago, but two, that was for a salvage building.
Okay. We're gonna meet on Thursday and make our decision, and we will notify you by mail, but we sure appreciate the effort you put into making your presentation. Okay, gonna close A6 and go to our last one. BOE number 95, resident number 145453100. What's your name, sir?
Brian Leeds.
Mr. Weeks. So my notes indicate that the assessor has this on for $890,100. You would like to have us value it at $550,000. Is that correct?
Even the 550 is wrong.
Okay, even the 550 is wrong. Okay.
I paid $550,000 for it last May.
Okay.
But that includes personal property.
We get that. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, car washes are basically based on the personal property is expensive. And
Oh, this is commercial?
this is a car wash.
Okay.
It was for sale for a long time. I was the only idiot willing to pay $550. I would take $550 right now. I'd take $450 right now if someone would pay it to me. So to me, that's the fair market value. I think that's a pretty easy argument.
I know you're tired. You had to sit through all this.
Yep.
Is that all?
I mean, unless you have any other questions for me, I mean,
I would shock at the cash flow on these things.
there's no cash flow on it. I make no money on it. It's the worst business decision I've ever made in my life.
Unless
And I almost
you're paying yourself in that salary part.
No, I don't make any there. It's the worst business decision I've ever made. I own 9 car washes.
Are they all there?
Oh no.
Oh,
No, I make a good living out of 7 of them. Make a real good living out of about 3 of them.
where is this one?
23rd and McCarthy.
23rd and Main.
There's a 7-Eleven on the corner, and it's.
Where's the Crest Foods? That's Meridian.
I was like,
And
maybe
then-
that's Rockwell. Well, there's a 23rd and Rockwell. There's and yeah.
McCarthy. Okay. Okay, let me hear from the assessor. He says it's not worth 550.
Hi, I'm Jason Hill of Valuation. Yep, you can see in May 21st, 2024, he purchased $550,000. Last time that car wash looks like it sold in 2020 for $700,000. That sale, that $550,000 sale, was deemed invalid as it exceeds the sales analyst looked at it. He said it gave it the reason it exceeds reasonable market parameters.
I would happily sell it to him.
He just thought it was too low, so that's why he made it invalid. Here's
Which one was low?
the $550,000.
Because it had sold for 700,000.
No, I think he looked probably at other sales comps
Okay.
and just got $1 per square foot kind
Yeah,
of
the
range.
sales comps they're not comps. You can't compare a car wash in Edmond or, a Memorial in Penn with one at 23rd Park. Car washes are based on cash flow, number one, not on square footage, but either way, it's not comparable. And
We'll get to the comps.
Wait. Give me the year for the 700,000.
It was June 9th of 2020.
That's what I put down. 2020. Okay.
The hearing officer that worked this hearing, here's what she had to say. 2025 hearing denied. I talked to one of the owners, Tammy Weeks, on April 7th, 25. She sent an income information for 3 years, but it turns out that's the business income for the car wash, not rental income we would need to value this real estate. I asked her if she had an appraisal done for this property since it was just purchased in 24, and she said no. There was none since it was a cash purchase. Tammy Weeks also bought another car wash in 2024, and we have that property on for $185 a square foot. It was a valid sale. I explained to her that we deemed the purchase price for this current property below market value, but we did put it on for $180 a square foot, which is in line with the other car wash she bought. I emailed the NOD and the sales comps to Tammy Weeks in the mail, and also to this BMW car wash at outlook.com on April 3rd. I wrote a couple notes here. We discussed the 2024 sale, which was deemed invalid. We have sales comps here that he's protesting. That should be in here. The sales comps, the median price per square foot of those sales comps come in at $235.60. There was no income worksheet done. Only sales comps were used to support this value. And if we go back in time, the market value for this particular property has been over $1 million going back to 2017. So, and then it went down to that 890. So there was a drop after this sale happened in the historical values.
It's interesting though that the sales history was really interesting because there was a 2014 sale for $440,000 and then a 606 sale for $857. So it seems to be all over the place.
Yes.
Which I thought was odd. Do you know if that 2014 sale was valid?
Can we take a look at it here? You might maybe have to go up to the.
I mean, it's pretty far back. It doesn't really matter, but it's just curious.
Let's look here. New improvements, and looks like it was on a hearing value that year, 2024 value.
Have you ever had to appeal any of your other car washes?
I had a question, Mr. Weeks. Did you look at income statements prior to your purchase of this? What were those like that they were showing you at the time?
I mean, are you asking for a number?
Yeah, like I walked in one time to one of the car washes in Edmond, and they had on their board how many they ran through that week, how many they ran through that month, and then how many all of the car washes because they were competing with.
Right.
It was phenomenal the number of washes that this company had.
If I average 40 cars a day, I'm all right with that. I'm not happy, but
what did those numbers look like before you bought it?
They claimed in the 50 cars a day range, which at this car wash, like my car wash in Edmond, I averaged $13.27 a car.
Right.
I average under $10 a car at this location. It's a different clientele.
Yeah.
So even at 40 cars a day, which is pathetic, I'm not even doing $400 a day of business. That barely pays my employees. Like I said, I paid $550,000. I have no idea how he could deem that an invalid sale. Anyone in the world could have bought it. I wish they had. I've had it for sale for months now. I've had 0 offers on it.
What are you trying to sell it for?
If I could sell it for anywhere close to what I paid for it, I'd take $450 right now.
What are you listing it at?
$600. Because nobody wants to pay what you're asking.
You don't want to take a haircut on it. You
I'm-
have to. Somebody might be out there for $6.
I would sell it. My wife probably wouldn't because she's more stubborn than I am. And I'm like, that's lost money. We lost that money the day we purchased it. We're not getting it back. So, if anyone wants to buy a car wash,
I think it was built in 2014.
the company that I bought it from, they went bankrupt, and they wanted to shut this wash down. But between the time that I agreed to buy it from them and when it closed, they wanted to close it down because they were losing money just paying their employees. Should have been an absolute clue to me that I should stay away.
Now, you made tired here, but you made an argument that I wanted him to respond to. You said something about,
The comp car washes in there.
yeah,
I mean, if you've gone by the car wash at 15th and I-35, the Coulter Express, and you watch it do 1,000 cars a day, you cannot remotely compare that to my car wash at 23rd and McCarthy. I do 40 cars a day, and we're talking about car washes that are miles and miles and miles
but
away.
I thought your argument you made was you don't do it by square foot, you do it.
Yeah, by cash flow. And so if I'm a crappy car wash owner,
Yes.
I can run a car wash into the ground and not miss no value. If I'm really good at it, I can bring value to it. So it's very hard to value car washes for you guys. They don't have value. They don't have value unless they have business. Does that?
Yes.
You could be a crappy car wash manager and still run 1,000 through a day and look like a million, look like you know what you're doing.
Well,
It's all online.
You wouldn't do that for very long, because if you're crappy at it, people's cars aren't going to look good. They're not going to come back. But
That Coulter car wash, I know which one you're talking about, right? That big on queue in the Walmart there. That wasn't included in these car
no, I
washes.
didn't say it was. I was making a gross example.
Sure.
These
Yeah.
these aren't.
We have one here. Yes, they are a ways away from your location, but one was built here in 2007, another one built in 2008, and we have another one built in 1979.
Even to compare the one that I bought, 39th and Council, to this one at 23rd and McCarthy, they're not comparable.
Because
Yeah,
there's
I don't know.
there's nothing out there.
39th and Council.
Yeah. That's before you hit the
Mm-hmm.
almost county line.
It's a
road.
nice car wash. It is a nice car wash with nice equipment.
What's the surface area?
I don't know.
Me neither.
And I paid $750,000 for it,
Whoa.
and I've been offered $550,000 for it, and can't convince my wife to take it.
That's comp one.
And that's comp
Yeah.
one there. But it shouldn't be a comp. They're not comparable. They're not comparable.
Okay,
One
how would you pick a comp?
Well, one's the Taj Mahal and one's a.
No, you tell me which car washes you
Pick
should have
a
used as a
car
comp.
wash that's in a similar neighborhood, right? Of
Yes.
similar quality,
Mhm.
similar size. That makes it a comp, right? A 3,000 square foot house in Gaillardia is not the same as a 3,000 square foot house at Southeast 27. Right? And nobody would argue that,
Well,
right?
no, I argue that, but we have to.
I paid $550,000 for it. There's absolutely no reason why it should be valued for one penny more than what I paid for it. That's why I put that down on there. It's not worth $550,000. It's worth maybe $300,000. I'll take $550. There's absolutely
You're saying
no
that
reason.
because it was just 7 months to the end of the year, because this is as of 12/31.
Right?
Is that your argument?
Mhm. There's no other way to see it. Anyone else in the world could have bought it when they didn't. They were smarter than me. There's no way you can value it for $250,000 more than what I paid for it. It's not.
Well, that's assuming.
Anyone else in the world could have bought it. That's its fair market value is what the world is willing to pay for it. And if you want to buy it for $550 right now, I'll sell it to you. If you want to buy it
Obviously,
for
you had
$8,
the money to buy it. There could have been an issue of availability of funds and whether they were going to be borrowed or whether you could put it into your pocket. So that's not quite a good argument. You said
fair market value is what people are willing to pay for something. That's inarguable.
well, except unless they deem it an invalid sale.
The reason they deemed this an invalid sale was the difference between this sale and other valuations, right?
So if I sell it for $400,000, are you going to deem that an invalid sale because it's considerably less than what I paid for it? Because that's nonsense too.
Sales analysts would look at all the sales. That's why we send out sales questionnaires and everything to come up to that conclusion. But I can't speak for the analysts. I'm not a sales analyst. But going back to the Gaillardia, it's easier for us to value in Galardia because there's other sales in Galardia. There's
course.
not other car washes like yours within like a neighborhood that's not Galardia, so we have to go outside.
No, what you should look at, number one, is what it's sold for. If it goes on the market, that's what it's sold for. The guy that sold it to me, it told me that somebody was willing to pay that.
Why did you reduce from 1.14 million to 890?
Can we go look at the previous values here? And, okay, so in 2024, that was on for the $1,086,950, and then the sale happened, and then the sales analyst put it at that $890,000.
Did they say why? Was it because of the sale?
Can we look at the notes? Right down, sale, go, yeah. Owner stated there was $220,000 worth of machinery and equipment involved in the sale. The owner considered the purchase price to be market value. And then right there is where the decision was made. This is the only note. This sale falls outside the range of recent sales. He wasn't very thorough as to how he came up to that value, but that's how the value was changed.
And you mentioned personal property too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, car wash equipment is crazy expensive, and it doesn't last very long.
Right. Well, it gets you.
This is a drive-through with bays and.
No,
It's not
it's a tunnel.
drive-through, it's a tunnel. But it's you drive through the tunnel.
Well, you pull onto the little thing
Yeah.
and put it in neutral, and it pulls you through.
So is it fair to say that she reduced it because of the personal property, the information he provided on the personal property?
She did not reduce it. It was a no change. The
Where did
hearing
I get the
officer-
890, 100? Isn't that what the assessor's office is
That's
asking
this
for?
year. That's this year.
The sales analyst put it on that value,
Oh,
and then he appealed that value, and the hearing officer agreed with the sales analyst and didn't change due to the sales comps.
You are you
I showed
you
this one
confusing 18? That was the year before.
oh, there it is. Yeah, the paperwork. I was looking at this. I pulled my valuation in from the assessor's website. The assessor's website said had the 1.1. Okay, so I'm confused. Sorry.
I own a car wash not very far from there at 37th and Meridian.
Wait a minute, Meridian, the credit unions, 37. Okay, yes, I got it.
I have it for sale for $3 million. It's a good car wash. Do a lot of business. It's worth it. I'm not arguing the value of it.
When was it built?
A long time ago, but I bought it in 2017 for 8 years.
And so
You just can't compare the two. They're not comparable.
Did he?
No.
Oh, so why'd you say that?
I'm saying I don't care what those other car washes sell for.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
One is not comparable to the other.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, you guys are kind of far apart, so I can't even ask if you could meet somebody part of the way. You're saying that you're not even going to get 550, so you're not willing to go any higher. Okay.
I am not lying to you when I tell you if somebody offered me $500,000 for it, done. 450. That's my wife calling me right there. I'd have to talk her into it, but I'd do my best to talk her into it just to get rid of it.
Okay. Well, we're going to decide Thursday.
I've heard that many times. You need anything else from me?
No.
All right. Thank you guys. I know you don't have an easy job. Have a good day.
See how varied the things are. Yeah. Be careful. Is it still raining?
Oh, no. I'm parked a long way and I'm overdue.
Okay. I knew that they said that other guy was going to be long-winded, but I didn't think I could in front of him tell him to wait and do him first. Okay, so I've closed the hearing on BOE 95. And so we are going to reconsider, or we're going to finish considering the one for Mike on Thursday. We meet at 9:30 on Thursday, right? Okay. Anything further from anybody? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm still trying to get numbers for you for how many appeals